What happens when a man known for his quiet intensity suddenly reaches his breaking point on live television? When Robert Pattinson, usually the picture of calm detachment, sits across from Whoopi Goldberg on The View, and something snaps that no one, not even he, saw coming. Because what you're about to witness is one of the most unexpected, raw, and uncomfortable celebrity moments ever captured on daytime TV. The studio lights glared with their usual morning brightness. The audience was lively, laughing, clapping, oblivious to the storm about to unfold. Robert sat on the couch beside the hosts, wearing that faint, polite smile he'd perfected over years of press junkets. But behind his eyes, there was something restless. Something that looked like exhaustion, or maybe something deeper. Whoopi leaned forward, her signature glasses catching the light. "Robert," she began, voice measured but laced with curiosity, "you've played some dark characters. But people say lately you've been darker. Are you okay, man?" It was meant to be a light-hearted prod, a nudge into conversation. But the way she said it, publicly questioning his state of mind, made the air shift. Robert chuckled under his breath. "Define okay," he said softly, almost to himself. The audience laughed. It wasn't a real joke, but they laughed anyway, trained by the rhythm of talk show banter. Whoopi smiled. "You tell me," she said. "You've been dodging interviews, skipping premieres, fans are worried." His jaw tensed. "Fans," he repeated. "Or tabloids pretending to care?" The laughter died. You could hear the hum of the studio lights. Sonny Hostin tried to smooth it over. "We just mean it's been a while since people have seen you, Robert. They miss you." He looked down at his hands, fingers tapping against his knee. "People don't miss me," he said quietly. "They miss the version they've made up." The mood was shifting fast. Even Whoopi sensed it. She leaned back, eyebrows raised, almost defensive. All right, we won't psychoanalyze you," she said with a half-laugh. "But you do seem like you've got something heavy going on." Robert looked up, meeting her eyes, steady, unblinking. "And what gives you the right to say that?" The audience gasped. It wasn't shouted. It wasn't rude. But it carried a sharpness no one expected from him. Whoopi blinked. "It's The View, honey. We talk. We ask questions." "Questions," Robert said. "Or judgments dressed as concern?" Silence. A single cough echoed from the audience. Cameras zoomed in, capturing every flicker of tension between them. Whoopi laughed awkwardly, trying to diffuse it. "Robert, come on. You've been in this business long enough to know how this works." He leaned forward now, voice low. "Exactly. That's the problem. Everyone knows how it works. No one asks why it works this way." For a moment, he wasn't talking to Whoopi anymore. He was talking to the system, the cameras, the audience, the gossip blogs. The whole circus. Joy Behar tried to break the tension. "You sound like Batman again," she joked. Brooding, philosophical. Robert turned to her, eyes flashing. Maybe Batman was the only one telling the truth. A ripple went through the audience. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." He smiled faintly, but it wasn't amusement, it was disbelief. You all love when an actor bleeds for a role. But when they bleed as a person, you call it drama. Whoopi's face hardened. "Robert, this is a morning show. Let's not." "No," he interrupted. "Let's do this. Let's talk about why everyone pretends to care about people they secretly love watching fall apart." The audience went dead quiet. Even the crew behind the cameras looked frozen. Whoopi tilted her head. "You're taking this personal, aren't you?" He leaned back, exhaled through his nose. "Personal? It is personal. You invite people here to talk. But what you really want is a soundbite. You want to see who'll break first." That hit. You could see it on Whoopi's face, a flicker of realization, then irritation. "Robert," she said slowly, "I've been doing this show for over 2 decades. I know when someone's trying to play victim on air." The air tightened. His eyes narrowed. "You think I'm playing?" And just like that, the energy in the room went from awkward to electric. Cameras caught every movement. Whoopi's hand on the table, Robert's eyes darting toward the audience, the faint tremble in his jaw. "I think," Whoopi said carefully, "you came here to make a point. Maybe about fame or pain or whatever. But this isn't the place to unload it." He smiled. "Why not?" "Because it doesn't fit between commercial breaks." The audience gasped again. Sonny tried to interject. "Let's all take a breath." But it was too late. The dam had cracked. Robert leaned forward, elbows on his knees, voice trembling. Not with anger, but conviction. "You all sit here every morning, judging people who aren't in the room. Actors, politicians, musicians. It's entertainment for you. But for us, it's our lives you dissect. Whoopi's tone shifted. That's not fair, Robert. We give everyone a platform to speak. He shook his head slowly. No, you give them a stage to perform their apology. And that's when it happened. Whoopi's face fell, not from offense, but from shock. The crowd murmured. Joy glanced off stage, as if waiting for someone to cut to commercial. But the control room didn't. They kept rolling. Robert's voice softened, almost breaking. You talk about empathy, about kindness. But what you really want is control. You want people to bow and smile and thank you for letting them explain themselves. Whoopi's jaw clenched. You don't know me. He nodded. Maybe not. But I know what this show does. Silence. No applause. No laughter. Just the weight of a truth no one wanted to hear on a morning talk show. And then like lightning, Whoopi struck back. You sound like someone who's lost his sense of humor, Robert. Maybe what you need isn't another interview. It's help. The audience gasped again, louder this time. Robert froze. The hurt flickered across his face. Then it hardened into something else, resolve. He leaned in, voice cold and steady. Maybe what you need, Whoopi, is a mirror. The audience erupted. Half gasping. Half cheering. The cameras caught Whoopi's stunned expression as Robert rose slightly from his seat, every muscle in his face taut with emotion. And that's where everything started to spiral. The show continues, but no one's really breathing anymore. You can feel it. The entire room suspended in that strange silence that happens right after something you're not supposed to see actually happens. Robert's words, maybe what you need is a mirror, are still hanging in the air, echoing charged. Whoopi's lips are tight, her expression unreadable. Around them, the other hosts sit in uneasy stillness, the audience too stunned to even clap or laugh. The cameras are still rolling. Every second feels dangerous. Sunny Hostin clears her throat, trying to anchor the moment. Let's take a second, she says carefully, smiling at nothing in particular. Robert, I think what Whoopi means is. But Robert cuts her off quietly, almost whispering. No, I think she meant exactly what she said. Whoopi exhales through her nose, steady measured. You're right, she says flatly. I did. The audience murmurs. Someone claps nervously, then stops when no one joins. Robert's jaw works as he forces a small smile. That's the thing about this show, isn't it? You say the loud part's quiet, and the quiet part's loud. Whoopi's voice sharpens. And what's that supposed to mean? He looks at her directly now, eyes dark and steady. It means you hide judgment inside jokes. You wrap cruelty in laughter so people don't notice. Whoopi lets out a dry laugh. Oh, please. Don't pretend you're some kind of moral authority, Robert. You make millions playing murderers, vampires, psychopaths. And you're telling me about cruelty. That hit him hard. You can see it, the flash of anger, the quick inhale. But instead of snapping, he just leans back, his tone low, almost haunting. At least I know it's fiction. The audience gasps. Sunny's hands are clasped together now, almost like she's praying for someone to call cut. Joy glances off stage again, mouthing something to the producer. But the cameras stay rolling, feeding off the tension like it's oxygen. Robert turns slightly toward the audience, his voice breaking the silence. You ever wonder what it's like to have your worst moments turned into entertainment? A murmur ripples through the crowd. He points vaguely toward the stage lights, the cameras, the hosts. You ever wonder what it's like to sit under these lights while strangers dissect your life like it's a case study? They call it conversation, but it's really just consumption. Whoopi's hands are folded now, her voice firm. You came here knowing what this show is, Robert. Nobody forced you. You could have said no. He nods slowly. You're right. I could have. But I thought maybe, just maybe, someone here might actually listen instead of waiting for their turn to speak. Whoopi tilts her head, unamused. You think you're the first celebrity to come here and act like they've been wronged by the media? Sweetheart, everyone's got a sob story. But people at home don't care about your pain. They care about your work. That last word hits like a slap. Robert's tone sharpens, his voice no longer calm. And that's the problem. They don't care about the person, just the product. As long as we smile, perform, and stay silent when it hurts, everything's fine. Right. The audience doesn't know what to do. Some nod, some stay still, and some look away. Joy tries again to cool it down. Robert, maybe we can shift gears, talk about your film, maybe. But Robert isn't hearing her anymore. His voice trembles slightly. Do you know what it's like to lose yourself because everyone else has already decided who you are? Whoopi's face softens for a moment, then hardens again. You're not the only one who's been through hell, Robert. We all have. But you don't get to come here and insult people doing their jobs. He glares at her, voice low. I'm not insulting you. I'm asking you to stop pretending this is compassion. You talk about empathy, but you profit off humiliation. That's it. The audience gasps again, louder this time. Whoopi leans forward, eyes narrowed. Watch yourself. Robert meets her stare, unwavering. Why? Because it's live? Because someone might see the truth. The tension is unbearable. Every second feels like it could explode. Sonny interjects softly. Robert, we're live. He raises his hand gently, silencing her. That's exactly why it matters. Because for once, maybe people will see how this machine really works. The camera pans across the audience. Faces twisted between shock, curiosity, discomfort. Some are glued to the moment. Others are whispering nervously. Whoopi's tone turns cutting. You think this machine made you, Robert. But remember, without the press, without the interviews, without us, you wouldn't even be sitting here. He looks at her like she's just confirmed everything he believed. Exactly, he says quietly. And that's why I'm here, to stop pretending that I owe this machine my soul. The studio is dead silent. Even the producer offstage doesn't dare to call for a break. Robert's hands are shaking now, not from fear, but from emotion barely contained. He looks down for a long moment before whispering, almost to himself. I used to think fame was a gift. But it's just a spotlight that burns whoever stands under it too long. Whoopi opens her mouth to respond, but nothing comes out. For the first time, she's speechless. Robert turns slightly, addressing the audience again. You laugh when celebrities lose control. You scroll, you share, you say, they've lost it. But maybe they're just tired of pretending everything's fine. A woman in the front row murmurs, wow. Whoopi finally exhales. You done? She asks, voice trembling just slightly. He looks at her. Are you? That line lands like a punch. Joy Behar looks at the camera, forcing a brittle smile. We'll be right back after this. But before she can finish, Whoopi waves her hand sharply. No, don't cut to commercial. Everyone freezes. She leans forward, her voice steady but cold. You think you're saying something new, Robert? You think you're the first person to feel exploited by Hollywood? Please. Some of us have been fighting that system since before you were even famous. Robert nods, meeting her tone. Then you should understand. I do, she snaps. But I learned how to fight it without tearing down everyone around me. Robert pauses, eyes softening slightly. Maybe that's the difference, he says. You learn to survive it. I'm still trying to escape it. And for a fleeting moment, everything stops. The hostility melts just enough for the humanity underneath to show. Two people, both shaped by fame, both scarred by it, staring at each other across a table built for performance. The audience sits in stunned silence. Robert looks away, sighing deeply. I shouldn't have come here, he mutters. This was a mistake. Whoopi's voice is calm again, almost gentle. Maybe, but you came anyway. And now everyone's watching. He stands up slightly, glancing toward the cameras. Yeah, he says softly. That's the problem. And just like that, the studio dissolves into whispers, gasps, and the sound of tension you could almost touch. The cameras keep rolling, but the energy in the room feels radioactive. Like everyone knows something irreversible just happened, but no one knows what to do next. The audience is half holding their breath, eyes wide, waiting for a cue that never comes. Robert is still standing halfway out of his seat, his shadow cutting across the studio floor. Whoopi sits perfectly still, her expression unreadable, but her grip on the mug in front of her is tight enough to show the tension in her knuckles. From offstage, a producer's voice murmurs something urgent through the host's earpieces. Joy Behar glances to the side, mouthing, Do we cut? But Whoopi shakes her head almost imperceptibly. Not yet. This moment, whatever it was, had already become something more than television. It was truth, raw and unfiltered, bleeding right through the airwaves. Robert exhales slowly, lowering himself back into his seat, but the calm is fragile. You know what's funny? He says, voice low, trembling slightly. You invite people here to talk about their work, but the second they stop playing along, you call it a breakdown. Whoopi doesn't look at him right away. You're mistaking honesty for self-sabotage, Robert. He lets out a bitter laugh. Or maybe you're mistaking silence for professionalism. The audience reacts, soft gasps shifting in seats, a few murmurs that get picked up by the boom mics. The tension is alive, moving like static across the room. Sunny tries again, her voice soft but shaky. Look, this isn't about sides. We're just trying to have a conversation. Robert looks at her, his eyes suddenly tired. Then why does it feel like an ambush? She doesn't answer. Nobody does. There's a long pause, and then Whoopi leans in, her tone quieter, but sharper. You're angry. I get that. But don't turn that anger into arrogance. He meets her stare. And what would you call years of smiling through questions that are meant to humiliate you? Whoopi's voice tightens. That's the job. You think I haven't been asked worse. Robert's reply is almost a whisper. Maybe that's the tragedy. A wave of silence rolls through the studio again. Even the laughter signs stay dark. Someone in the back of the audience coughs, the sound almost startling. Robert looks down, rubbing his palms together nervously. He's unraveling, but not the way you'd expect. Not in rage. In revelation. The quiet kind that's more dangerous. You know what it's like, he says, looking up at Whoopi now. Every day, people pretending they care, agents, PR, fans, even interviewers, but what they really want is to see how far they can push before you finally snap. Whoopi watches him carefully, eyes narrowing. You think that's what we're doing right now? He nods slowly. I think it's what everyone's doing. And the cameras, he gestures toward the glowing red lights. They make it worse. They make you forget you're a person. For the first time, Whoopi's voice softens. Robert, maybe you need to talk to someone. Privately. Off camera. He looks at her, that same faint, haunted smile. That's the problem. The world doesn't believe in private anymore. The audience murmurs, a ripple of quiet discomfort. He continues, every time I step outside, there's a camera. Every time I speak, someone twists it. So maybe this, he gestures around, is the only place left to tell the truth, even if it ruins me. Whoopi shakes her head. That's not bravery, that's destruction. Robert's voice rises slightly. Maybe they're the same thing. And with that, he leans back, looking up at the ceiling lights as though he's seeing something far beyond them. His face is pale, distant, but there's a clarity there, a man who's decided he's done hiding. The producers are panicking now. You can see it in the glass booth behind the stage. Hands waving, signals flashing. They're begging someone to cut to commercial, but Whoopi doesn't budge. Sunny whispers under her breath. We can't air this. Whoopi glances at her. It's already airing. Robert's gaze returns to her, calm again, almost eerily so. You ever wonder what happens to people after they leave this couch? After they walk off your stage and have to live with whatever version of themselves you just sold to the world? Whoopi takes a slow sip from her mug. I've been in this business too long to worry about what people think of me. Exactly, Robert says. That's what scares me. The words hit her harder than he realizes. There's something in her face, something like recognition. A flash of pain she hides too quickly. For a moment, the two of them just sit there, locked in silence. Two professionals. Two human beings. Each trying to hold their ground, but both cracking in ways the audience can't unsee. Then unexpectedly, Whoopi laughs, a short, brittle sound. You really came here to burn the whole house down, didn't you? Robert tilts his head slightly. Maybe it needed to burn. Gasps again. But this time, a few claps too from the back rows. Half the audience seems horrified. The other half enthralled. Joy Behar finally jumps in, desperate to regain control. Okay. Everybody take a breath. This is The View, not a therapy session. Let's talk about your film, Robert. Eclipse of Eden, right? You play a man on the edge of reality. But Robert interrupts her with a small, ironic smile. I guess I didn't have to act much for that one. The audience bursts into a mix of nervous laughter and shocked silence. Whoopi shakes her head slowly, muttering under her breath. This is unbelievable. Robert glances toward her. You said earlier that I sound like I've lost my sense of humor. Maybe I just stopped finding pain funny. That silences her completely. For the first time, Whoopi doesn't have a comeback. Her face softens again, maybe with empathy, maybe with exhaustion. She sits back in her chair, the fight leaving her posture. The cameras zoom in on her face, then Robert's. Both of them, still, quiet, heavy with everything that's just been said. The studio lights buzz faintly. The room feels smaller. The world feels like it's holding its breath. And then, from the control booth, the producer's voice finally cuts through the earpieces. We're going to commercial. Now! The lights dim slightly. The music swells. But no one moves. Whoopi turns to Robert, her voice low, private, meant to be off-air, but still caught faintly by a nearby mic. You know this'll be everywhere by tomorrow. He nods slowly. Good. Maybe someone will finally hear it. Then he stands up, calmly, almost gracefully, and walks off the set before the cameras even fade to black. The audience is left staring, mouths open, unsure if they've just seen a breakdown, a rebellion, or a revelation. Whoopi watches him go, her expression unreadable, eyes following him until he disappears behind the curtain. She sighs, looks toward the audience, and forces a small, weary smile. We'll be right back. The screen cuts to commercial, but the damage is done. The truth has already aired. The next morning, the world woke up to chaos. Clips of the confrontation flooded every social media feed imaginable, cut, edited, slowed down, remixed. The words "maybe what you need is a mirror" became a trending sound on TikTok, repeated in 1,000 different voices, layered over reaction videos, dramatic filters, and endless commentary. The View's official YouTube channel uploaded the segment, uncut, but within an hour, it had already been mirrored, dissected, and uploaded across every corner of the internet. Millions of views in minutes. The headlines came next. Robert Pattinson snaps on live TV. Whoopi Goldberg humiliated during on-air clash. The interview that shook the View. Everyone had an opinion, and everyone was loud. By noon, CNN ran a panel on it. Entertainment Tonight called it the most uncomfortable television moment of the decade. Fans online split into camps. One side praised Robert's raw honesty, calling him a truth teller in a fake industry. The other accused him of disrespecting a legend and using mental health as a publicity stunt. The truth didn't matter anymore, only the narrative. In a dimly lit hotel room in Manhattan, Robert scrolled through the storm on his phone, the blue glow painting his face pale. The sound was off, but the captions were enough. His words sliced apart, twisted, looped. Arrogant, unstable, genius, reckless. He set the phone down, staring at the ceiling. The world wanted to pick him apart again, and the irony wasn't lost on him. He had tried to expose the machine, and now the machine had swallowed him whole. But somewhere in that noise there was something else. A different tone. Thousands of comments, quiet but growing. He's right. The media feeds off pain. Finally, someone said it out loud. That was the realest thing I've ever seen on daytime TV. It was messy, but it was real. Meanwhile, at ABC Studios, Whoopi sat in her dressing room, silent. Her team was buzzing around her. Publicists, producers, executives, all spinning the event, drafting statements, preparing for the next day's episode. One of them asked gently, "Do you want to issue a response?" She looked up slowly from her cup of coffee, eyes tired but sharp. To what? To him. The interview. The backlash. Whoopi sighed. No. Let them talk. But later, when she was alone, she rewatched the clip. Not the viral edits, not the angry reaction videos, the original broadcast. She watched his face, his voice breaking when he said, "Maybe they're the same thing, bravery and destruction." And for a moment, she didn't see a rude guest or a publicity stunt. She saw something she recognized. Something she'd lived. A lifetime of being watched, judged, dissected. She closed the laptop, leaned back, and whispered, "Damn." The next day, The View opened in silence. The audience sat still, waiting. Whoopi adjusted her glasses, the same mug on the table in front of her, but there was something different in her tone. Lower, slower. "Yesterday," she began, "you all saw something raw. Some of you loved it. Some of you hated it. But either way, you felt it. And maybe that's what we've forgotten in all of this, feeling." She paused, looking out at the audience. "I've been doing this a long time. I've seen a lot of people break under the spotlight. And maybe Robert's right about one thing. We do turn people into stories before they're ready to be told." A murmur ran through the crowd. "But," she continued, "I also believe in conversation. In facing the discomfort. In not hiding from the hard stuff." The audience clapped slowly, respectfully. It wasn't the usual daytime applause. It was heavier, more thoughtful. Somewhere, in that same moment, Robert was walking down a quiet Manhattan street in a hoodie unnoticed. He passed a newsstand where his own face stared back at him from a dozen magazine covers. He stopped for a second, looked at one of them. Pattinson's Meltdown, actor or activist? And let out a small, humorless laugh. Then he walked on. His phone buzzed in his pocket. A text from an unknown number. "Saw the show. You were brave. W." He didn't respond, but he smiled faintly for the first time in days. The storm didn't stop. It raged for weeks. Talk shows debated it. Late-night comedians joked about it. PR experts analyzed it. But through all the noise, something shifted. People started talking, really talking, about how fame consumes, about the thin line between interview and interrogation. And in the middle of all that noise, one thing became clear. Robert Pattinson hadn't exploded. He'd exposed. He didn't win. He didn't lose. But he changed something. Months later, a podcast host asked him about that day. He thought for a long time before answering. "I guess it wasn't about her," he said finally. "It was about all of it. The performance. The pretending. I just stopped playing for a second. And the world didn't know what to do with that." The host asked, "Would you do it again?" Robert smiled softly. "Probably not on The View." They both laughed. But underneath it, there was truth, quiet, haunting, unforgettable. Because sometimes the most explosive moments aren't about anger, they're about revelation. And that day, on live television, millions of people saw the mask slip. Not just from a celebrity, but from the entire machine that feeds on them. The screen fades to black. Narrator's voice, calm and cinematic. Some moments break careers. Others break illusions. Maybe this one did both. A final beat of silence. Then, tell us what you think. Was Robert right to confront Whoopi? Or did he cross a line? Let's talk about it in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to Prime Narrator for more stories that pull back the curtain on fame, power, and the truth beneath the spotlight. The sound fades. The story ends.